So after many hours, it is finally time for things I wish I knew earlier in Nier Replicant 1.22. Without wasting any time, let's jump right into it. One of the first things you probably noticed while playing this game, especially if you're doing a lot of the side quests, is the amount of walking around you're going to be doing from one end of the world to the other. And even when you get the fast travel, you're still going to be doing a lot of walking around. So I figured what better way to start off this video than showing you guys the fastest possible way to move around in this game. So I set up a few comparisons here side by side, just so you guys can see the difference in movement speed. As everybody knows, by pressing R2, we can sprint moving a little bit faster. However, something not many people realize is that by tapping R2 continuously and just keep on rolling, you actually go faster than if you just hold it down and continue sprinting. I know it may seem like a lot of effort if you haven't done this, but it'll get to a point where you're just naturally doing this all the time. And you can see here on the side-by-side comparison, it's not a major difference, but it is enough to notice over the long haul. Now this trick only really works in Act 1 of the game. The reason for this is that in Act 2, your character actually runs faster as an adult. However, the rolling speed stays the same, therefore in Act 2 you can just continuously run around and it will be the same as if you was rolling all the time in Act 1. Again, you can see this in the side-by-side comparison. You'll notice the running as an adult is actually the exact same speed as if you continuously roll as a child. One final note on this topic, there's actually a way to go even faster as an adult, which is going to be having a spear equipped and continuously rolling, then pressing square really quickly. So by rolling and attacking continuously here with the spear, we'll notice there's actually another slight speed increase from just the regular running as an adult. You probably noticed there's not a major speed difference between each one of these steps. However, if we compare the very first running as a child compared to the actual special sort of roll attack here as an adult, there's actually quite a considerable difference between the lowest tier and the highest tier. So definitely keep that in mind while you're on some of these really long, tedious quests from one end of the game to the other. Now moving on to the most fun part of the game, which is of course the combat, which we have some really useful tips for. The first tip we're going to mention is that it's actually considerably more powerful to continuously tap the R1 button or whichever button you have assigned for your Dark Blast. This is the basic ball magic. Than if you just hold it down. This means if you're holding it down at the Dark Blast, it'll continuously fire these small little energy balls at the enemy. However, if you continuously tap it, the first ball of each combo, let's call it, is actually bigger and more powerful. So by never holding it down, we're always using the first big ball of each combo, therefore dealing quite a bit more damage on the long run. Everybody has probably figured out, plus the game actually explains that you can charge your magic spells, making them more powerful or doing slight variations. However, I believe the game doesn't tell you that by standing completely still while charging up your magic spells, you can actually slow down time by quite a bit. And the main reason I use this is for parrying enemies. If you slow down time, you can easily get parries off on any of the enemies that are about to attack you, and you can see what you're doing a lot better and prepare for your next move. Another quick tip on the magic spells on this game is that you can actually do slight variations of each spell depending on what move you're doing before you cast the spell. So let's use the Dark Whirlwind as an example. If you just regularly cast this fully charged up, it'll cast these 4 scythes around us that will spin around like a whirlwind, protecting us and damaging enemies. However, if we evade just before casting the spell, it'll actually cast it in a much wider radius and then slowly close in on us. And then if we decide to cast it while in the middle of an attack combo, it'll start spinning a lot quicker as soon as we cast it for a few seconds before eventually slowing down to its regular pace. And most of our magic spells actually do have slight variations like this, so definitely go and check them out and get comfortable with all the different variations and know what each one of them do. Before we move on from the magic spells, a very basic tip here in case you have just literally started out the game. Something I didn't realize until quite a few hours in is that in the pause menu, if you press up, apart from changing which spell you want to have equipped, something people don't realize is that you can actually change your L2 and R2 buttons as well to other magic spells, meaning you can have 4 different types of magic equipped if you really want to, by taking away your possibility of blocking or evading. I definitely wouldn't recommend taking away your possibility of evading, but just know the options there if you do wish to. Speaking of evading, what better transition than to move into the flank attacks we can do in this game. Something really useful in this is that if we locked onto an enemy and press the evade button while moving towards the enemy, we'll actually do this sidestep and flank round behind the enemy, giving us a perfect open to follow up with a special combo. This can be particularly useful, especially against a lot of the annoying enemies that use their shields and block a lot of our attacks. This is a great way to deal with them without the need of slowing down to charge our heavy attacks. In the first act of the story, we only have access to the one-handed swords. However, when we reach Act 2, we unlock the spears as well as the two-handed swords as well. And as the options start by default, you have to hold down each direction on the D-pad to change between these types of weapons. However, there's a really useful option under the game category called Weapon Quick Switch. If we change this to tap instead of hold, it'll allow us to change between our weapons by simply tapping on that direction on the D-pad instead of having to hold it down. This will make it so that if we actually want to change what weapon we have equipped in that slot, we'll have to hold it down, but simply tap it to change between the categories. This makes it a lot more comfortable if you are the sort of person who enjoys switching between weapons during combat. Maybe if you played a lot of Final Fantasy 15, you'll love this mechanic. You can pull together some quite nice combos by switching weapon mid-combo in the middle of the air and stuff like that, so it definitely looks nice if nothing else. Unfortunately, in this game, fast travel between each major location isn't available until the second act of the game. However, that doesn't mean that we can't take advantage of some other features in the game to move around a lot more efficiently. The first thing is going to be make sure you unlock the ability to ride boars as early as you possibly can. The way to do this is doing the side quest in the main starting village called Boar Hunt by talking to this NPC right here. All you ask us to do is go out into the northern plains, into the far end, and defeat one boar, and once we do, come back to the NPC, and we'll unlock the ability to ride boars around the northern and southern plains. This side quest is available pretty much from the beginning of the game as soon as we get back from the Lush Shrine with Vice. Once we have this ability, every entrance and exit to the northern plains and the southern plains will have a boar resting near the entrance, making it way more efficient to get from one point to another. If you find yourself in a situation where the boar's quite far away, you can actually also press the start button and then right on the D-pad, and you can call over the animals, which will make the boar come to you instead of you having to go to it. Also, once you have your companions, you can also give them basic orders in case you want them to stop attacking, to attack the same enemy as you, or just go all out. So that's a nice way to move around in the northern and southern plains, but how about in the desert, which is a pretty vast area as well? We actually have a different type of fast travel. We're going to be using the Sandsprout Wells to move around from one point of the desert to another. You may have noticed these small structures around the desert. Well, how these work is that if you walk in one of them, you can actually teleport to any of the other ones. The reason this is useful is because there's one by the entrance to Facade, and there's another one all the way up by the Baron Temple. And the way to unlock this is never actually explicitly said in the game, it's completely optional. To unlock these, what we need to do is after we've rescued the Prince of Facade, exit Facade and then come back in, and then go into the King's Mansion right at the north side of the village. Then go upstairs and speak with the advisor. After speaking with him, he will allow us to use these fast travel locations. However, before we can use them, we do need to jump on top of each one and activate them individually. There are a total of 4 throughout the desert. A quick tip on the fishing side of things, which is actually a pretty major part of this game if you're doing all of the side quests, is that at any point during the tug-of-war with the fish, you can press the X button and attempt to reel it in even if the bar isn't completely depleted. Obviously, the lower the bar, the higher the chances of this early reel-in actually being efficient. However, it can be useful to save time for a start, and also if your line is about to break and you don't think you're going to make it to the end of the tug-of-war, you can simply press the X button and hope it actually reels it in. Something else pretty neat about this version 1.22 that of course wasn't in the original PS3 version is the fact that we get a free DLC pack we can download from the PlayStation Store. And this pack includes 4 different costumes as well as 4 different weapons. These weapons and costumes are actually directly from Nier Automata. For example, we have the 2B costume for Kaine, we have the 9S costume for the younger protagonist, then we have another costume for the older protagonist. For the one-handed swords, we have the Virtuous Contract and the Cruel Oath, again off of Nier Automata. We have the Virtuous Treaty on the two-handed swords, and we also have one of the spears. The weapons aren't amazing, but they do look pretty cool, and the costumes look absolutely amazing, especially if you're a big fan of Nier Automata, so definitely download those. Now, these next 2 tips are more only for completionists and people who are interested in the trophies, but I thought I would definitely mention them just in case. The first, if you are going for the Platinum Trophy, start out with the gardening as soon as you possibly can, just because the flowers not actually grow in real life times. Without going into too much detail about the trophy itself, you actually have to wait 48 hours in real life time for the plants to grow, which can be really time consuming if you are planning to go for that Platinum. And the second thing is that the side quests in Act 1 actually become unavailable once you reach Act 2, so if you are planning on finishing those, make sure you do them before moving on to the second act of the game, with the exception of the Fisherman Gambit, which are actually available in Act 2 as well. Anyway, those are all the tips and tricks I have for this game. If you do have any extra helpful ones, please do leave them in the comments down below. Help out the community. I hope you did find this video helpful. If you did, don't forget that thumbs up button, subscribe for more content coming very soon, and we'll see you next time.